And so help me, and help me finishing this sentence. It takes a village. It takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child. And so why has this saying stuck around with us so long when you haven't seen a village since the advent of patriarchy? What happened to the village? We're ready to go into it today. Stay tuned. Yes, yes, yes.
Welcome to your paradise, place you long for all your life. University, manifesting all your dreams. Paradise, your land is home. Writing the tracks on your own. Protect your loved ones every day. Knowledge goes a long, long way. University.
Yes, yes, yes. UNA. Yeah. Hey. I want to welcome everybody. Welcome you. All two of y'all. Thank you for being in the house. I'm yours truly, Diva Laree. We're about to get into this thing. We are rebuilding the village. We are rebuilding the village. Yeah. So I want to thank y'all for joining me on this wonderful, wonderful, beautiful, lovely, lovely, wonderful, wonderful day. I'm yours truly, Diva Laree. It's my birthday. It's my birthday. I'm giving gifts out. It's my birthday. Yeah. All right. So actually, my birthday was yesterday, but I will be celebrating for the rest of the year. That's how I do it. All right. So now, it's the beginning of the year for me. So I'm going to celebrate the rest of the year. I want to give a shout out to Ashita, Sharice, El Tariq, Renee for being the 4 top people on the test. The 4 top scores, or having the 4 top scores on the test for the Sunday class, which is called The Truth, Law and History. So congratulations to you all. We got some gifts for you. We got some prizes for you. And by the way, those of you all who take all the tests, we're sending you a love note. Let me pull this love note out of here. This is a UNA love note. And we're going to be sending those to you all who passed the test. All right. Along with the certificate. Those of y'all know, you know how valuable the certificates are. So we want to welcome you. Divine. Jessica, thank y'all for joining us. Okay, so we're going to get into this today. The village. All right, what happened to the village? It takes a village to what? Raise a child. Okay, now let's get into this thing. Now, you all know, I know that I give out some information that is contrary to the way we've been taught. And even though a lot of us know the truth and we understand certain facts, it's hard for us to come out of that whole mindset or thought of what we've been raised with. So I understand that some people are going to have their kickbacks with respect to the information that I put out. And please note that I have full respect for whatever your ideologies are. But when you're coming to me, if you really want to resolve it or you want to get to another place or a higher vibratory frequency, come to me if you have questions that you've done research on. All right. Other than that, all you're coming to me with are your emotions, and that is not going to allow you to vibrate at the level that you want to, because the people who I deal with are people who want their freedom. If you want your freedom, you have to truly be able to look at self and to recognize what facts are. If you're willing to do that, then you're going to get to the level you want to be. So I'm going to put this information out. It's not intended to be disrespectful to anyone. I'm giving you the facts. Now, if you have some factual information that's contrary to what I speak, I encourage you to share it with us, all right? So, today's session, we're talking about getting back to the village. I want to thank the spirits for allowing me to be here and share this information. We're talking about getting back to the village. Now, what was the village. Let's make this clear. Because originally, before I go into that, what we have to recognize is this planet was a matriarchal ruled planet. This planet was a matriarchal ruled planet. So when we're talking about patriarchy, so let's break this down so that we can recognize what I'm speaking on when I say matriarchy versus patriarchy. Matriarchy meaning ma, as in mother. That's the original rule on this planet. The women originally ruled this planet. Matriarchy meaning ma or mother. Patriarchy meaning pa or father. Paternal. Maternal meaning mother. Paternal meaning father. All right, now, so let's understand that as we go back in history, really, when you're talking about patriarchy, it is a new order on this planet. It took fold when we're talking about, you go back to 2000 AD or BC. This is when it really started to take a hold. And see, some of y'all are like, well, now Egypt, we was back in Egypt. There was women pharaohs in Egypt. Wow, those pharaohs look so effeminate. Go check it out. There were women pharaohs in Egypt. As a matter of fact, I got in my records at least 6 of them that their sex was written over. So what happens is when a particular entity conquers something, they rewrite the history and they write out the original people in that history. Well, melanated people are not the first people that happened to. That also happened to the woman, where she was written out of history. So I even go back to this, those scriptures in the Bible, those are the scriptures of the woman, the melanated woman, dark-skinned women wrote those scriptures, and she was written out of her own scriptures, and then the male put those in a canonized version of what we know of as the Bible. Canonized meaning it's enclosed in this Bible. Y'all got to understand that those scriptures are contracts, and they're very, very powerful. So after she went and taught him the esoteric knowledge of history, he took her contracts and wrote her out of her contracts. See, this is where the term Mason comes from. The woman was the one who had all of the knowledge, the power, all of the resources. Everything was in her name, and everything still is in her name to this day. She just don't know who the hell she is. So we got to talk a little bit to the women today so that they can figure out who the hell they are, so that you can start recognizing that we've got to return to the village and understand who these entities are that we're doing business with. Okay? So I just want to put this base down because I need y'all to go and study this. Back when we're talking about 2000 BC, that's when patriarchy really started to take a hold. And here we are in 2000 AD, and we're getting ready to shift back. Everything is shifting back. So there have been so many shifts in this whole time frame from the BC to the AD. There was a shift, a cosmic shift in what we know as the mid-1800s. All right, the time when Lincoln was assassinated, there was a shift there. That's when the Moors got kicked out and lost their whole position. And the so-called light-skinned people started to take over. That was in the mid-1800s. There was a shift. Same thing happened with the woman. So let's get back to the matriarch and understand what's going on. I'm not going to go deep into what she did because she did some dirt because she's not a victim. So all of us experience the things that we experience because as entities, spiritual entities, we put out some dirt. So we got to come back and get this lesson that we're supposed to get in this dimension. So with respect to women, understand that there is a shift taking place. You are regaining your powers. And you need to understand why you lost them in the first place. And so I'm going to go over some things about what your powers are, what position that the woman used to hold, and then I got to help you to understand who the entities are that you're trying to do business with, and why, if you don't recognize who they are, you're going to keep stepping in the same poo-poo that you've been trying to get out of. All right? So now, as we get back into the original order of the planet was matriarchy. And with matriarch, she did not get married. Oh, Diva, you trying to destroy the black family. What you doing, Big Diva? What's the black family? Okay. Let's get into what family is. Now, I didn't go into black. Well, let's get into what family is. When I ask you what happened to the matriarch, you haven't seen a village since the invent of patriarchy. So what happened with respect to patriarchy, this is where the man started to take over the woman. All right? She became a slave to him. I don't have a lot of time, so let me try to get through this. She became a slave to him, whereby marriage certificate was her being signed over as his property. Some of y'all, I don't know about. Okay, pay attention, because y'all have this whole society has glorified this whole thing we call marriage, and I'm not dissing it. If that works for you, that's fine. I'm going to give you some information that you can go and look up for yourself, so that you can recognize what the issues are. All right, what marriage was her going into slavery as his slave. What is a husband? A husband is a manager of a farm animal. That's what a husband is. A manager of a farm animal. So as his wife, she became his slave. Y'all look it up. What is a family? When you go and look up the etymology of the word, family means slaves and servants. Family means slaves and servants. So yeah, she gets married to him. He becomes her manager because she becomes his farm animal. She has children and they become his family, or slaves and servants. I'm not making this up. What happened to it takes a village to raise a child. Well, once again, when he took her over and she became his slave, well, that's universal law. That happened because she did dirt to him. All right, so now, when she becomes his slave, she now is moved out of her village. What is the village? Her mother, her sister, her aunts, her cousins, her grandmother, her nieces, her girlfriends. That is the village. It wasn't him. Originally, he went off and did with his family whatever he needed to do to help them. He may or may not know even the child was his. But that child was in a village where it was constantly protected. Now, I know some of y'all like, well, we need the family. He needed. That was never his responsibility in the first place. So let me get into who he is. Because the problem is, when he took her over, he took on a responsibility that was not for him. Let's understand this, and I always go back to nature. If I ever have questions, I'm going to look at what nature does. If I can't get it from nature, I'm going into the cell. I'm going into the molecular structure of my being to understand what's going on. So let's go to nature. When we look in nature and we see a mother with a baby, all right, you're not going to see her leaving that child with a male. That does not happen. There are some birds that do that, very few, but most birds, they will leave the child alone before they'll leave him over her children. She's not going to do it because she understands his nature. We've been made to think this whole family thing, especially when we look at these little cartoons for children and this mama bear, papa bear, baby bear, that's not even natural. That's not even natural. A bear is going to mate with this male bear, and she's going to go on her own because she would never be sleeping with him up in a cave and her, and they're hibernating. He's likely to wake up out of his hibernation and eat that child. She knows that. The mother knows that. These other females in nature and in societies, they recognize, okay, this is a male being. I respect his nature. I'm not going to leave him with my child because my child is my responsibility. And I don't have a police that I can go call on if he does something stupid. I don't have that. So this is not dissing all men. But hell, even men know how men are. Males tend to be a predatorial type of being. That's not to say all of them are that way, but if you as a woman, because I'm talking to the women right now, if you as a woman are refusing to respect the nature of the male, then the problem is you. I don't care what this damn society has told you. You know good and damn well how a male is. The same way, look, when you looking at a lion, a lioness, because a lion doesn't even hunt. It's the lioness that does all the hunting. It's the female that's bringing all the food to the family and making sure they eat. I don't care if you're talking about a squirrel, a lion, a bird. It's the female. So a lioness come up on a group of gazelles, or a group of giraffe, and they get to chasing the whole group of giraffe, and there's a baby in there. Who is the only one that's going to put their life on the line for that baby giraffe? Only the mother giraffe going to do that. Where is the daddy? Where is the papa? Oh, he up at the front of the line trying to get the hell out of Dodge. Cause he don't want no parts of that lion. But the mother will take it out. The mother will take a lioness out. That mother giraffe, oh, she will go up against that lioness because her baby is there. So I'm saying to you, it's not just in that situation. It's the female that is the one who's protecting that baby. That's the way the matriarch operated. And so now I just said, who is the village? The women. The women are the village. That's not to say he's worthless or no, I'm telling you what nature is telling you. So if you're not respecting who he is and all this stuff about, he's supposed to be provider, that was never what he was created for. He was created for a purpose, and it wasn't to be providing for you. In nature, he is not a provider. He is not a protector. Oh, but the lion will come up. Let me tell y'all something. You can watch all these videos, right? And the biggest nemesis for a lion is, because I always hear men talking about, oh, my favorite animal is the lion. That's the king of the jungle. That's the biggest wimp in the whole damn jungle there is. He'll know she's out there hunting. And the biggest nemesis to a lion or lioness, because she's the one doing the hunting, is going to be a hyena. He going to hear these damn hyenas. They are loud. When she gets her prey and she gets the food for the family, these hyenas are going to find her. And they're going to try to attack that prey. How often does a lion come to the rescue of a lioness in the wild? It's very rare. It's very rare. I'm saying to you that it's not just with the lion. That's why you had in the Wizard of Oz, the cowardly lion. Why was that? See, y'all think these just movies for entertainment. They're trying to tell you something. They have a tendency to be a male entity, not all males. But in general, there is a fear in them. It's not dissing you, brothers. It's not. I'm just telling you the facts. You know for yourself. Men don't like to fight like that. Women, I don't know, listen. Men don't like to fight like that. Where y'all like, oh, well, they supposed to protect the family. They don't like to fight like that. That's not what they were created for. Listen, you got to understand. Men fight for ass. All right? That's it, ass. Either they trying to save their own ass or they trying to get some ass. That's what they fight for. Not, I'm telling you the truth. They're not fighting for, I'm going to save the family. That's not what they do. But they've been put up to do that in society because they took over like that. So y'all got to understand what their nature is. It's not dissing them. When y'all are sick in the Child Protective Services or whoever it is, and y'all got whatever money coming out of their paycheck, or they staying on the run, they in jail, and they got felonies on their record, you're doing a disservice to yourself. First of all, you're chasing them, and you're putting all this negative energy on them, when the truth is that was never what they were created for. That's not even in their nature, to be taking care of a woman or a family, or to be is not their nature to be protecting like that, because it's the woman who does that. But we need the black men to step up. You got to step up. It's like you waiting on Jesus to come save you. No, you got to step up. Because the truth be told, you are the one who's in the lead. Nah, how we in? Okay, so let me get into this so that you understand. I don't have a lot of time, but I need you to understand who you are. The original being is the female. Even if you go on the molecular side and you understand the difference between the X and the Y chromosome, you know that the Y is a derivative of the X. The X is the original, and the Y is a derivative of the X. Means it is derived from the X. Well, if it's derived from the X, that means the X was first. That's just on the molecular level. If you go through history, you'll know that the feminine was first. When you understand molecular structures, you'll understand that the brother is really a deformed sister. I'm going to just say it like that, because when I put that information out there, I don't want it to be a negative towards my brother, because I love my brother, and I don't want it to be said that I'm trying to down him, or I got some male hate. I don't have that. I just have to tell the truth. So when we understand that the feminine is the original, then you got to understand you're the nature. You are nature. You are the one who's supposed to be leading. You're the mother. So then you got to lead. He's going to do what you say do. Okay, let's get on to society then. Even in society, you see that. When we're looking at people who are advertising, they're going after the woman. Why? Because she's the leader. Whatever she says goes. I remember this guy who used to do promotions for events and parties or what have you. And he was telling me he had all these flyers. He was like, I was standing there with him as he's giving out these flyers. He's promoting his event. And I would see he would put a flyer in the hands of the female or the women who would come by. But the brothers, he's like, yeah, come to this event at such place. And I was like, well, why didn't you get a brother's a flyer? He's like, I don't need a word about them. He said, I don't worry about them. I know they going to go where she goes. If she's going to be at the party, he going to be at the party. Because that's what men do. They're going to follow the woman. Even though in this society we've been made to think that it's the woman who follows the man. No, he's going to follow whatever she says does when she says to do when she stands in her place. Even when you're looking at, again, when I was doing television commercials, and I would have the people who want to advertise. If I go to a site like Spike TV, that's for men, I can, get a little 30-second commercial for maybe $15 at, during the day. If I take that same commercial and I go to Oxygen or O or Lifetime, that same time slot for that same time was about $200, $300, $500, $700 because it's targeting women. That's where all the money goes, because those are the people who control 80% or more of the funds coming into the house. It's the woman. So again, I'm just trying to make sure the woman understands who she is, and that even in this society, those who are running this game, they know who's controlling everything. You need to know who's controlling everything. It can't be no baby daddy without you. Soon as you sit down and close your damn legs, he don't exist. He only existed because you said yes. So now that you're understanding that, you got to recognize you're the one with the power. So in recognizing this, all right, when we moved from the village, we moved into a position of putting beings in charge of your precious cargo. What's that? Your children. Why are they so precious? Because they the future. When they get tainted, the future gets tainted. I say to you again, when we're talking about a male being, we're not talking, and I'm not saying all males do this, but in general, these are unbalanced beings. Meaning, if they're not in deep with their spirit, if they're not in sync with their spiritual nature, then the physical nature will take over. Understand this. All beings have a nature. Women got a nature. Men got a nature. Birds got a nature. Dogs and cats, they have a nature. If you don't respect the nature of beings, then you're being disrespectful to that being. And so when we're talking about a male, just on a molecular level, the Y chromosome is an unstable chromosome. It's unstable. Meaning, if you're not careful and you don't respect what it is, then it's going to take you out. Period. This is not to say, once again, I have to keep prefacing this so that people are not saying, oh, I'm giving you the facts. I'm giving you the facts. So let's talk about this, because this brings us into things like child molestation. Child molestation. When you go and do your research, what you're going to find is that more than 85% of the perpetrators, 85% of the perpetrators of this child molestation, they're males. And then 10% of those who are the other 15%, 10% of them, they don't know whether they identify as male or female. What I'm saying to you is that a large number of these crimes or these things that are taking place against our children are done by beings that are in places where they shouldn't be. What happened to the village? What happened to the village where it was the women's place to protect that child? So I'm going to go into my own personal situation so that you can understand. Now I recognize the village and why I recognize the village. When I was younger, I had 2 villages. One was with my mother and one was with my father. If there was a time when my mother wasn't able to take care of me and she needed somebody to make sure I'm okay, I'm going with grandmama, or I'm going with my aunts over here on my mother's side, or I'm going to be with her girlfriend, one of her girlfriends. That was the village. That was the village that my mother had to build here. When I'm on my father's side, I'm going with grandmama, my aunts over here, and my cousin. That's the village on this side. So what happened is when my mother decided to leave the village with this male, because he was in the military, and we relocated, she don't have her two villages anymore. They're gone. So she's depending on this character who was a predator to look after me. And what happened, fortunately, he was praying. He was praying on me. Now, it was not as bad as what it could have been, but he was definitely a predator. And so my mother ended up leaving him, thank goodness, and we went back to the village. But I'm letting you know that women, it's your responsibility to look after the good of the child. And you got to rebuild your village. It might not be your mother and your family members that can do it. Where are your girlfriends? Where are your business partners? Where is somebody who can be there for you? Because we understand you get tired, you can't do it all by yourself, but you got to rebuild your village. And so I know this seems harsh or this is hard, and I'm trying to get this information in because I have to get out of here in a few minutes. But what we're talking about is rebuilding the village. Because this is not to say, oh, you can't be married or whatever. Whatever you need to do to help your life, that's on you. What I am saying to you, though, is that you want to start respecting the nature of the male. This is not saying he's bad people or he's likely to rape somebody. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is he has a nature. Y'all know that men will tell you all the time. They'll tell you all. And this is the thing. Women, y'all are not, it's not even on the male. It's really not. It's on the women. Because they have told us who they are since they've been created. We're not respecting what he's saying. So men they'll tell you all the time, man, I was just sitting there and then my little sergeant starts saluting. I wasn't even thinking about nothing. I just looked down and my sergeant was saluting. It's like they're telling you that they don't even have mental control over their own vessel to keep their sergeant from saluting. They'll tell you over and over again, well, I like new. Do I need to say it? I like new coochie. They'll tell you that. They told women that. That's why, they're in, most of them are in a point where they're like, I don't want to get married. I just want to. Okay, they told you who they are. And then when it comes down to, oh, he cheating. He cheated on me. He did this, he did that. They've told you who they are. And I'm not telling you, oh, you can't be with them or you need to have a polymorphia. I'm not saying none of that. I'm saying, do you respect the nature of this being? He done told you who he is. All this stuff about, my dad beat baby daddy, my dad beat baby daddy. Okay, look, that's a tongue twister right there. My dad beat baby daddy. They've told you who they are. So then at what point do you stop putting out that kind of energy where you're stressed out about him not doing something you think he's supposed to do? That was never his place in the first place. I know this is harsh because we've been lied to in this society. We have been lied to. Everything we do in this society is backwards from nature. Everything we do is backwards from nature. And until we as women are ready to recognize who we are, ready to study and find out what the truth is, Not what you feel like. Well, I feel like I'm supposed to be following him because in my church, my pastor said so. So I'm supposed to be subservient because the Bible said, well, how the hell is that working out for you right now? Somebody tell me. Is that working out for you? If it is, then I'm not talking to you. But for those of you all who are always complaining about how he don't do this and he didn't do that, and you have children, especially y'all with daughters, and you're leaving your child in the hands of a character who you've been told you're not showing respect for his nature. You're putting him in a position. That's like, you know what? This is why I don't blame the male. Because we as women, we got to start being cognizant of what we're doing. Because it's like, okay, you got some meat hanging up, and we know dogs like meat. For example, I'm not comparing him to a dog because I don't even do that. But I'm just using this analogy. You got meat hanging up in a room, and you got a dog right here, and the dog like meat. Now you can train the dog to not eat the meat. But at some point, and that dog better be in tune with his spirit for real. But at some point, if you're leaving, the dog in the room with this delicious meat, then the problem is you because he's fiending for that damn meat. Just take the meat. Don't even put him in a position where I'm going to put this meat up so high where you can't get it. I'm going to keep it out of your way. You got to respect the being. That's what I'm saying. And this is just what women I see are not doing. So again, getting back to the village, rebuilding the village. It doesn't necessarily have to be your family. Where your girlfriends at? Your girlfriend's teenage daughters or whatever, your nieces, that's where you want to start building. And then all this stuff about trying to build, and some people can build with, because some of these men, they are in tune spiritually. Those are the ones who you want, the ones who are truly in tune spiritually. But at the same time, you better still respect their nature. Even though they're in tune spiritually, you better still respect their nature. The question is, are you building with your sisters? Are you building with your sisters? That's what you want to start doing. Are you rebuilding your village? That's what you want to start doing, because that's where your help is going to come from. Your village. And so what happens is patriarchy comes in, takes her away from her village, pulls her over here to him, where she's got to rely on him to help her do things that her village was supposed to help her do. Now, I want to get into this, and I got to get out of here in a few minutes. The reason why, there's so many things going on that we as women don't recognize or understand why we do. And men don't understand it either. Why do women think men can read their minds? Why do you think that? I don't even understand that. Well, I do understand it. But I want to go into just briefly that women, there is a spiritual side to this game. All right. Intrinsically, there are powers that we remember that we used to have. But the women are the ones that used to be able to read your mind. It's the women. When we're talking about mother-in-laws and why they're so nasty. Like, you can have the sweetest woman in the world, but when it comes to somebody who's married to her son, or the son is married to her daughter, she is nasty. Why is that? Because there's a position where she knows intrinsically she's supposed to be. That's her space. The village is where she's supposed to be. And spiritually, there's a fight in her, and she doesn't know what it is. Because we remember back then. Remember, we're gods. We've been here before. And this whole society is twisted and backwards. And your spirits are constantly fighting you. The problem is you're not listening. You're not listening or understanding what's going on within you. So I say this to you, to the sisters, understand how to rebuild your village. That's where we got to get back to. Yeah, you can build with your lover or your husband or whoever that is. That's great. You need to get back to building with your sisters, whether it be in your family members, your mother, or your girlfriends. But you got to rebuild your village, because there are things going on in this society and we're not respecting the beings or the nature of the beings that we're dealing with. And I'm saying to the women, you are the one who's the problem if you're not respecting his nature. So when he does the things that he does, whether he's not paying child support like you think he should, or he's not protecting you like you think he should, or he's not doing this like you think he should, go back and check in nature and see if he's doing that in nature. He didn't do it in nature. He didn't do it in the Bible. He don't do it in society today. But you're still expecting him to do something that's never been in the nature of his vessel, and he's never done in history in any point on this planet. You're not respecting him. So as soon as you start doing that, he's going to step up. He's going to step up, because you're not going to have the issues anymore. So those are the things I need to say. And again, I know that everything that I've just spoken is backwards from what we've been taught, but I'm just giving you what nature says. If what you find in your research is opposite to what nature says, please come share it with me. I'd love to have a conversation with you. But if everything you're going on is what you have been taught, and especially what you read in a Bible, and again, y'all know I respect the Bible, but you also know that there's lies in the Bible, and that those scriptures in that Bible come from the women that were turned around and redacted and flipped upside down and rewritten and everything else. There's truth in there, but there's a lot of lies. So we got to make sure we understand and recognize what the facts are. You go to history, go to the molecular level, then you're going to see what the truth is. All right. I appreciate y'all for joining me tonight. I'm yours truly, Diva. Please hit me up. Hit me up at UNA America if you have any questions or issues or concerns or thoughts or information that you want to share. I want to hear it. Diva, I love y'all. I'm out. Bye-bye.